Welcome to Healthy Mind, Better Future, a podcast dedicated to mental wellness, family strength, and community healing for Africans in the diaspora. With me are Dr. Adeyemi Fatoki, Dr. Olaleye, Dr. Kenneth Soyemi, Mrs. Dorcas Fatoki, Mr. Funmi Onayemi, and Funmi Apantaku-Onayemi, your host. Today's episode brings to light an issue that hits home for many of us in the African immigrant community. It is the growing disconnect between African immigrant elders and our youth. From cultural clashes to expectations about respect, career, marriage, and even faith. These tensions are real. One major factor is the difference in cultural context. Parents come with traditional values that emphasize obedience, respect for hierarchy, and communal responsibility. Youth growing up in the West are shaped by a culture that encourages independence, expression, and questioning. These two value systems often clash. So, when youth speak up, parents might see it as rebellion. When parents enforce tradition, youth may feel silenced. Our youth feel misunderstood, our elders feel disrespected or abandoned. What can we do to rebuild communication and mutual respect between generations? Welcome to Healthy Mind, Better Future. Today we'll be discussing the whole disconnect between African immigrant elders and African immigrant youth. So we begin, of course, with Dr. Fatoki, Dr. Soyemi, Dr. Olaleye, Mrs. Dorcas Fatoki, and Mr. Funmi Onayemi. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. As you know, there's no question about the fact that there's this huge disconnect, if there's such a thing as huge disconnect. We are disconnected. We have our elders feeling disrespected. We have our youth feeling misunderstood. What's going on with this generational disconnection?
One of the major sources of the tension is the cultural values and the lifestyle choices, and also the communication gaps also plays a major roles. We as elders in the diaspora, we rely on proverbs, indirect language, and hierarchical communication styles, while the younger people prefer a direct conversation and personal boundaries. So usually it's not a matter of disrespect. Me personally, I think it's just the way we raise these kids and the cultural values and the cultural pressures they have to face going into the world.
With us growing up, you don't look your elders in the eyes. In the US, if you're communicating and you're not looking at someone directly, it's considered kind of disrespectful. I remember one of my bosses that I will call him Doctor. His last name is not, no, just call him Steve. But I'm thinking this man is almost old enough to be my father. I can never call him Steve, so I call him Doctor this. But the other thing too is, I guess, understanding the youth and also leading by example. For me, my kids always see me prostrate for my elders. They'll see me dobale for my elders, and that's something that they've picked up. They may not do it as low as I do, but that's something that they do as a sign of respect for their elders. Some of the things I remember is, if you hand an elderly person something with your left hand, even if you're left-handed, you'll get smacked for that. That's considered disrespectful. But those are the kind of things that, now we realize that it's not disrespectful. If the person is left-handed, they're left-handed. But I think it's more of a disconnect and understanding each other's values and where we are, that when you're in Rome, you behave as the Romans do. So some of the good things we have, we need to pass on to our children, and some of the bad things, like smacking someone for using their left hand or making them convert from left to right, we know that those are damaging to the children, and those are things that we need to let go of.
About the fact that we know that our youth are frustrated, do you think you have the in to that one? Why are they so frustrated with us?
Probably because we don't understand them. It's always, oh, you don't understand, you don't understand. And also, it's something that's being like taught in schools as well. Um, they feel that it's not a sign of disrespect, that they're still respecting us. But again, the older generation feels like, oh, this is disrespectful. And we also want to think about like Dr. Shimi said, like peer pressure. And, prostrating in front of like one's friends, it can be kind of embarrassing, especially if the friends don't understand, the culture. So those are a few things.
I agree with everybody and what they have said and discussed. And I really believe that it is true that it's just a matter of communication and how we do the communicating. We have to be patient with them and take our time to try to explain things to them, and like Dr. Fatoki said, to model some of those things. And we have to be flexible as parents. We cannot be super rigid that this is the way it's been done and that is the way it has to be done. Using the example of looking people in the eye. If a child is talking to you and won't make eye contact, something is wrong. Depending on their age, we're worried. You start thinking, are they on the spectrum? And the older ones, if they're not looking at you, then you're suspicious. Are you lying to me? So you really have to, you need to look directly at me to be able to, for me to believe what you're saying. So that is for this culture. But in the culture that you shouldn't look at somebody who's older than you in the eye when you're talking, that it becomes as if you're challenging the authority when you do that. So when you're in a new environment with new way of life, we as the parent, I think, are the ones that need to learn how to be flexible and how to adapt to the new cultures that we found ourselves. Because otherwise, like Mrs. Fatoki said, we're going to frustrate them to no end. They have to act certain way out of school, when they're at school, when they're at school, when they're with friends. And it's hard to juggle all these do's and don'ts between two different cultures. So I feel I put the burden on the parents to try to be flexible and to try to learn the new culture so that they can be able to help their children to adapt.
So when we talk about language, that's a huge barrier. So we understand our own language and we speak that well. So when we talk to them, we speak English, of course. At the same time, when we have family and friends around, we of course resort to our language. And for many of them, they feel like there's almost as if you're talking about them. So there's this breach of trust almost when that continues. How do we handle that? Because I love to speak my language, I have to be honest with you. And when I was raising my children, I tried to teach them my language, but of course I'll come on, switch and switch and switch, so they never got it. They understand it, but they didn't get it. How do we handle that?
Studies have shown that it will take about 2 or 3 generations to amend that. It's an issue within every immigrant here, either from Africa, from Asia. You see, it's so prevalent that there is a name for it. I think they call it intergenerational cultural dissonance, ICD. It's a common issue. It's a common issue. The thing there is that parenting children in the new culture is complicated. It's complicated, and we're wired differently. The way our parents wired us, or where they molded us, or the way they trained us, we cannot just let it disappear overnight. We cannot just let it disappear. Even though we tried, most parents in the diaspora, I can tell you, because we're one of them, we try, but it's not that easy to just let it disappear. It's a gradual thing, and that's the reason why the expert says it's going to take about 2 to 3 generations.
What then happens with parents or elders when they feel as if they can't even express themselves well, when they speak to their children? Back at home, we know when our mothers look at us, we know what that look will mean. We can't do that here because they don't get it. They actually feel like, is something wrong with your eye? That's what they will ask you. Something like that. So how do we breach, or how do parents actually express themselves to the understanding of their children?
What I do is I interpret in real time so that they don't feel uncomfortable or they feel like we're talking about them behind their back. So let us say me and the mom are talking and I'll interpret it in real time, or I'll tell the mom, you know what, say it in English so that they can understand in real time what we're talking about, so that they don't feel, oh, these people are talking about us and we don't really understand what they're saying. And most of the time, I try and force them to. I speak to them and I speak to them in our native tongue, and the kids will be kids. They'll just end up laughing. Or Dad, we don't understand what you're saying. But the key thing is to interpret in real time so that they don't feel you're talking about them.
The kids have their own language too. Yeah, just like we have our language. And for me, my wife does a lot of interpreting for me. There are things that the kids have said that I thought were offensive, but they were not. So I know even one of my sons, Kenny, he and I we never used to agree because I thought it was always disrespectful. But my wife, she takes the time to understand their generation. So from her interpreting what he's saying to me, I have a better understanding. So we don't have as much of a disagreement as we used to. So I think she's probably better able to comment on some of that for me, because she is the one who is the bridge between their generation and mine, at least for me.
Oh, okay. So Mrs. Fatoki, the baton has been passed to you. Please help us.
I just have an example.
Okay.
So the boys and their dad, they have a group chat along with some other volleyball players. So Kenny gets in the chat and he says something like, "Oh, I'm finna do this, this, this." So his dad got so angry and he was saying, "Oh, don't talk like that, don't speak like that." I'm like, "Babe, it's just, he knows what to say, when to say it. It's just slang right now. I'm about to. He knows how to say I'm about to. It's just it fits in the group chat that they were in. It was nothing to get, like angry over. So it's just things like that. Or it could have been, maybe like haircuts. Oh, don't wear your hair this way, this way. I'm like, well, everybody's kind of doing it. Like he didn't have any dreads or anything or whatever. He just may have wanted a higher haircut or something like that, or maybe some curls in his head. But it's like it's 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 their generation. It's happening here. It's happening now. So, it's just trying to understand, like where they were coming from, when they were younger.
Yeah, the
So we
earrings
should
are
just,
another problem that I had a problem with. Or braiding your hair, it's like we don't do things like that. But again, that's just their generation, and it's not a sign of disrespect to me, but that's what they do. So those things I have to chill out, like they
mm,
say. It's like that, chill out
so
and understand that it's not a sign of disrespect. Or when they are sagging their pants, it's like, you're being disrespectful. But they know the difference. Like when you're in the boardroom, they know they don't dress like that. But when they're with their friends, they do. So things like that I've had to understand and, just not take it to heart or get upset about that.
there's no question, though, that we have this toxic relationships among parents and their children and elders too, and the youth. So what do we do? Is there a way to even prevent that? Or is there a way to treat that?
For parents, just learning right from the beginning when the kids are young to be flexible and to try not to major on the minor. Let the little things go. Try to understand the ones that you think are big deal. If they are truly big deal, talk to them. They're smart kids and they're going to listen. And they're just going to know that we don't do this kind of things where in my family, this is going to be dishonoring to them. If I do this, or act in certain ways, and they will not do it. But there are some things that are just really not a big deal. Let it go. A child wants to want an earring. When one of my kids wanted to get earring, his dad said, wait till you are 18. After you are 18 and you want it, at least if your earlobe falls off, you know that was your decision. And once he's 18, he got it. It's no big deal. And one of them wants to start braiding hair. He was like, why? Oh, you shouldn't. If first I said, honey, that is between us now discussing it as parents, whether to allow it or not. So it's hair. When after a couple of years, you know what? He got it out of his system. He didn't even ask us before he cut it really low. So to me, don't major on the minor. The simple things, let it go.
When we talk about how we also speak to our children, there's this, they believe that we're kind of harsh, like especially our men, that the tone of voice, our tone of voice. So what do we do? How do we even begin to calm them down when you're really just maybe almost playing with them and they feel as if you are being mean because of the way you sound?
That's true to some extent, because I've also learned over the years to modulate my tone. Because
Okay.
sometimes people, because I may get a bit loud, but not in a, I don't mean any harm. It's just the way my voice. So over the years, even at the job, I've learned to modulate my tone so that people may not be offended with the way I say things. So on that, the kids have a point that we really do have to modulate, slow down our tone, and then never speak when you're mad. So never speak to them when they're mad, because trust me, as brash and braggadocious we think they are also very, very sensitive kids too. So I've always learned, I've learned that years ago, like to learn how to modulate my tone.
A lot of us, like Nigerians, we talk loud. So even when we're amongst our friends and we're kidding, like someone that doesn't know us, they'll think we are fighting. And but again, like here you have to learn to modulate it. But even now, like when we are talking, like my friends and I get together, people that are walking and don't know us, they'll think that we are fighting. But it's just the way we are. It's the way Nigerians talk.
This is a behavior that we grew up with. And like I said earlier, this is something that will eventually change. It's not limited to our children alone. Just like Dr. Soyemi said, I had an example. This was on the job with Marriott. I was a GM for Marriott. And one of my supervisors called Bethesda, Maryland, that I was yelling at her as a general manager. So my boss, the area manager, said, I know Funmi. This is the way Funmi talk. So, and he called me in and he said, I know you meant good, just lower your temper. So when you talk a little bit more softly. So this is something in us. And we try, and it will not be corrected overnight. But again, we are absorbing a lot of the culture in where we live in, which is the American culture. But we cannot just, let our own disappear overnight. It is still there. It's unfortunate sometimes. I'm not condoning it, but it is there. It is in our DNA.
We're not condemning it either. Like you just have to know, just like you have to know when to turn it down and when you can. I mean, when I'm with my friends, we are still loud. There are times that people think we are fighting, but we are not. But at the same time, when I'm at work, I try to turn it down, adjust it to whatever environment or situation I'm in.
When they hear that, they feel this aggression almost. So let's talk about code switching. We've talked about that. I think it was Dr. Soyemi who actually gave me that label. I didn't have that one. So, so code switching, everybody. It's difficult, isn't it? Even for us, it's difficult. Not to talk about kids that didn't even know anything about where we came from. no matter how much we tell them, they don't understand it. They don't understand it, the foundations of our values. So my point is, when they are here and they have friends and they have school and they have work to do, how do we help them? Actually, I think this is the biggest thing. How do we help them with code switching?
Code switching is when you have to adjust the way you speak, the way you act into different buckets. One is at home, one is at school, one is at work, and one is with the white world. Let's just say what it is. There's the way you speak, the way you speak within people from your country or your diatribe, and the way you speak when you go out into the corporate world. So, and then we have expectation on our kids to act in a certain decorum when they're with us Africans, when they're with their friends in school, and when they go out into the real world to work. So these kids have to code switch 3 times. We just have to code switch once. And that's our corporate world with the job. So it's a lot of pressure on these young kids, and they have to triple code switch. So we just have to put them in our shoes, help them navigate the world, what the expectations are, and how to act with decorum in all the different layers in which they find themselves.
I just want to say that it is also much more difficult when they're amongst us, meaning that when they're in our parties and we say, oh, DJ Dobale, and things like that. Hey, or they say, how come, oh, you don't understand Yoruba? How come aren't your parents speaking Yoruba to you at home? So I don't know. We do something to them too, honestly. We do. When we expect so much from them and they don't have that.
Yeah, I guess pretty much it's just trying to make their life easy. Don't put too much expectations on people. Like Dr. Soyemi said, put yourself in their shoe and just walk a mile in it and see how life is. So whatever little bit we can do at home to make it easier to not to make it a huge a flip, like when they're trying to switch from one to another, not to make it such a big hoop to jump, to try to, for us, to learn the culture, to learn to assimilate in the culture, and then to try to help bring them up based on the culture we're living it without sacrificing what is best in our own culture. And it's going to make it a lot easier for them to seamlessly navigate the different world, but not to put such a sharp demarcation with this is the way it's done at home. This is the way it's going to be done at, to try to learn so we can meet them halfway and make it a little easier for them.
Just to mirror what everyone else was saying, it starts at home. So they know what to do and when to do it. We as parents have to trust that, they know that the values that were instilled in them. And obviously when they're outside, around friends and things like that, they may not do it again because of, like embarrassment or, maybe they're just not comfortable with it. Because I know the last at least 5 years, they're more comfortable, the children are more comfortable with, being Nigerian in this American world. Like it's cool. All the music is, Afro beats. It's so they playing it loud in the cars everywhere they go. They only want to go to those type of clubs. So, I mean, just in time, they I guess adhere to those traditions and values and, make them more apparent outside.
I guess we can credit Afrobeats for bringing our culture to the forefront. So yes, the kids are very proud to be more African and Nigerian, and actually, a lot of them wish that they could speak the language, But again, the most important thing is communication between the parents and the children, and taking the time to understand them and not being judgmental.
And this topic of code switching, if we having these challenges with our own children, I would like to give special credit to those that married into different culture. Talking about this just opened my eyes that for Americans that married Africans, I give them special credit.
So just before we end, I think if we can have, we've discussed coping mechanisms and many of those. But I think for me that respect is actually universal. And as much as I remember when I first got to University of Illinois, I had my boss, Dr. Clyde Phillips, who is late now, who was almost like my father's age. So every time he would call me, I'll say, sir. And I'll not jump, but just sir. And so one day, this lady came to say, why do you always do that? I said, what do you mean? She said something vulgar. And I said, oh. I said, no. I said, Dr. Phillips is almost like my father's age. I'm just respecting him. But I'll say this about that whole idea of respect. I think it actually propelled my career because so Dr. Phillips actually took me under his wings, would tell me everything, would send me to Bethesda to represent him at my early age, for crying out loud. He was the first African American to be the director of Cook County Hospital at the time. So who was I at that time to go and represent him at Bethesda, for crying out loud? But that was how much he came to trust me and also respect me in return. So for our kids, I say, honestly, there's something about respect universally that if our children can just adopt that and understand that it's not about us being upset with them. It is just about us saying to you that part of life is respecting people, respecting yourself first, and respecting people. And that will open doors. For me, it did, big time, without doing anything. So I say we thank all of us for this conversation, and we hope that we've gotten to a point in which we can actually start to understand that we need to chill, right? Chill, as Mrs. Fatoki and Dr. Fatoki said. Chill, everybody, okay? And let us understand that our kids are going through so much, and we need to put them under our wings, support them so that they can grow. We came here to be successful. We want them to be successful. And so by supporting this whole code switching, this whole environment that we brought them into the world in, is a very important and responsible way for us to really guide them through this life and guide them through the whole chaos in the world. So I thank you so much. And again, this has been Healthy Mind, Better Future. We hope to see you next week. Have a good time.
Before we wrap up today's episode of Healthy Mind, Better Future, I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you for tuning in. If you found this conversation helpful or inspiring, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you know someone who could benefit from today's topic, please share this video with them. It might be just what they need. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below to let us know what you thought of today's episode, or tell us what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. This space is for you, and your voice helps shape what we do next. Thanks again for being part of this journey toward a healthier mind and a better future.